Welcome to the AP Cast, episode 11. Happy 2024 with Phil and Alex. Let's get it.
Glad we went out with a bang with you. Raider Nation, stand up. We'll see you in 2024.
Mount up. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the AP Cast. I'm Phil. He's Alex. It's 2024. The new NFL season is upon us. Fresh out of the gates, we got all types of action going on. How you doing, Alex?
Doing good, man. A lot of NFL stuff, like you said, man. 2024 season just started. Big signings. Most of them aren't official yet. Still in the gentleman's agreement stage, including the Raiders' big signing. We'll talk about that later. How you doing, Phil?
You know, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm really excited for this season, and in ways that I haven't been in years. Not because of the personnel, but because of the person leading the personnel. And I see the plan. I see the plan. I see how the plan has been executed. Now, does that necessarily mean that they're going to get to their final goal this year? That remains to be seen. But the plan is a solid one, and it will work. They need to enjoy enough success for it to continue to be implemented, because they're building it the right way from the ground up. The coaching staff that they put together to lead is awesome, and the guys that they've targeted right out of the gate and the guys that they've let go all show you how much this team is focused on moving forward together and with the proper guys that are Raiders.
Yeah, certainly. And for the first time in probably, almost 20 years, the Raiders are a defensive team. And I'm not just saying their defense is better than their offense. I'm saying they're prioritizing defense. Their defense is better than their offense, but they're prioritizing it. They're trying to get more talent on the defense, which again is already better than the offense to begin with. I mean, this is a straight up defensive team.
It is. Like-minded with their head coach defensive. Their defensive coordinator is Pat Ivy League, the genius. Yeah, I remember that. One of many comments that's aging well for Mr. Jones, especially given the way that the Raiders defense resurged, and now that they have Christian Wilkins coming in to play with, I can't wait.
Yeah, big money deal there, but that's what defensive tackles are going for. I mean, that's really what everybody's going for. You look at the numbers this year, it's every year it's like, damn, they're getting paid this much, they're getting paid this much. I'm talking players league-wide, any position. And we're at a point, man, it's just like, holy shit. What Christian Wilkins get? Almost $25 million a year? Maybe even surpassed that? I think he surpassed that a little bit.
27.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. Not ridiculous as in they don't deserve it, but it's ridiculous how much, like, man, before we know it, players are going to get non-quarterbacks are going to get paid $40 million a year, and we're just going to look at it like, so, who cares? That's normal.
Your boy Jay Jetta may come pretty close to it. I don't know if he's going to get there. I think he'll come up a little short, but he's going to set the bar so that it won't be more than one or two contracts behind him that's going to make it there.
No, for certain. And I think a lot of fans too, they have this perception where they remember the market from, I don't know, 5, 7, 8 years ago, and they're like, these guys are getting paid this much. This is such overpay. The truth is, it's really not. The prices just keep going up, and cap keeps increasing, and just natural inflation over the years, and that's really what these players are going for. So when fans are like, "Well, I don't want a good player if it's over $10 million a year," like you're not getting a great player at any position for less than $10 million a year. You're just not. I mean, the numbers just keep going up, and we're at where we're at.
You have to draft that guy if you want to get him for less than $10 million, and draft him outside of the first round.
Yeah,
that's the only way that's going to go down. No, I take that back, because It depends on the particular position. Because you got pretty good play out of John Jenkins and Adam Butler, and both of those guys cost you maybe $3.5 million combined.
Yeah.
But neither one of those guys were on par with the season combined. Were on par with the season that Christian Wilkins had by himself.
Yep. I should say you're not going to get a player that has a consistent track record of being good for under $10 million a year in today's NFL. You're just not.
No. But it is what it is. But we have cause for rejoice. One of the arch nemesis, James Richard Ropley. Hunter Renfrow. At one point, 2-3 years ago, I was calling Hunter Renfrow pound for pound the best player on the Raiders team. And you couldn't convince me otherwise. Pound for pound, he was the best player on the Raiders team.
Yeah. And now, 2-3 years later, he is a player not on the Raiders team.
He is a young man in search of a new start and try to find what he lost, because it got bad for Hunter at the end. And I've asked around, and I've been told many different things, but I hope that wherever it is that he goes, that he gets it together and he gets back on track and plays the way that everybody's used to seeing him play.
No, for sure. And there's certain guys like Hunter Renfrow who've just been everything that they've gone through, and a lot of it, Josh McDaniels came and he kind of cast him aside very unjustly, but through it all, Hunter Renfrow has remained just utmost professional, and you love that, and you always root for those guys.
Oh, for sure, definitely, and wish him success anywhere he goes. Once a Raider, always a Raider.
Yeah, for sure, just like he said it today.
Absolutely. Jerry Tillery was another one on the cut list, and with it's self-explanatory. The signing of Wilkins, you have Tyree that you can move around, who needs a home. We did not get much of an opportunity to see Byron Young this year. He started early, and then he just kind of fell off the face of the earth, and it happened. Nesta's still floating around on the roster somewhere. You have Adam Butler and John Jenkins as free agents, and personally, I think that with what they have, if they went out and re-signed both Jenkins and Butler, and brought in Wilkins, that would be perfect. And then had Tyree move it, had packages for him to be moved inside or play outside, depending on whatever it is that Graham chooses to do. I'd be perfect with all of that.
No, for sure. I mean, we're talking like the defensive tackle unit. This is, again, assuming they bring back Butler and Jenkins, like you said, which I think is very realistic, dare I say probable. But anyway, already without Wilkins, this is a very good defensive tackle unit. And now you bring in Wilkins, and fantastic.
I can't wait to see what the possibilities will be if they can actually collapse the center of the pocket. It's going to be real ugly. Real ugly.
No, for sure. And so I made a series of tweets this week basically saying the Raiders don't need a defensive tackle like most people think. And that wasn't me saying, I think a lot of people, Raider Nation, that they're very passionate about the Raiders, so they kind of took that as me saying like, hey, don't sign a defensive tackle, which I wasn't saying at all. I was really saying the Raiders don't need a defensive tackle because the defensive line is that good and was that good without a star defensive tackle. So now you add in a star defensive tackle, and they're just going to be better. They're going to be better than they are.
Well, I see your logic, but I can also stand with the masses on this one, because I was about this close to say you're out of your fucking mind. If you have a chance at a star defensive tackle, I'm taking him 10 times out of 10 and not thinking twice.
Yeah.
Said, oh yeah, this guy over here, 10 sacks from the middle of the defense. There's a spot for him. Said, how many guys I got on the roster? Doesn't matter. We got a spot for him. So I'll figure it out.
Yeah, no, I get it. Which, the main reason I was never on the stance of the Raiders, like they're stupid if they do this. It was more they don't do this. So I understand for sure.
And now that the price tag and the age is a concern. That he has no injury history, so I'm not disputing that at all. And clearly, of all the position groups, for as big as they are and much of the pounding as they take in their job requirements, linemen stick around the longest.
Yeah, no, most of the time they do. That's true.
And we know that Calais Campbell has got to be about older than Jesus, and he's still chugging strong.
Yeah, them edge rushers, man. I mean, Calais has played all side and everything, so he's a little bit of a unicorn in that regard. But yeah, no, for sure, man. Defensive linemen in general, not just defensive tackles, stick around for a long time.
Offensive linemen too.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Definitely.
I mean, the best left tackle in the game is pretty fucking old. And before he was the best left tackle in the game, it was probably Andrew Whitworth, who retired very recently because he was very old. So yeah.
Yeah, I think Jason Peters still didn't he play last year at 41, 42?
I think he did, because I think, what was it, with the Cowboys, he signed a practice squad contract where there was a gentleman's agreement that he would be prioritized if he needed to be, and he was.
Yeah. So they play for a long time.
Yeah, at a high level too. If they're good level.
For sure at a high level. Because leverage and angles for as much strength as it takes, it's also more about leverage and angles that can take you much further than just raw power alone. And the older you get, the smarter you become, the more sagey and cagey veteran that's got the bag of tricks to go out there and torment some of these youngsters until they figure it out.
No, certainly, man, certainly. So, yeah, a lot of good with the Wilkins signing for sure.
Now you had put out a tweet about the tight end that they signed.
Yep. Yes, I did. Harrison Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Harrison Bryant, he's just. I mean, all right. So I list the highlights, right? I list the highlights because it's not that I'm trying to ignore the bad, but I list the highlights because when you're a coach, you're bringing them in for the good. The bad's whatever. You're bringing them in because of the good. So I try to list the vision of why they brought him in. And what Harrison Bryant is he's a great pass blocker. He had the 5th highest pass blocking grade of all time. I mean, sorry, that does include tight ends who only played like a handful of snaps. So I actually think he was the second of tight ends that played at least 10 games. I think he had the second, ironically, behind Austin Hooper. So he's going to just same role and everything. And he has very reliable hands. He only had 1 drop last year. And so he has great hands and he's a great blocker. Now, the downside of him is he's not going to be a guy who wins a lot of 1v1s because he's not that athletic mismatch tight end, but they're not bringing him in to be that. So he doesn't need to be that. But yeah, for the role that he's going to take, great signing.
No, for sure. And just to touch on that, when you look in the grand scheme of things, now that Mumford is more likely than not going to be your starting right tackle or in competition for it, you're going to need another blocking tight end who can pick up that slack and be the 6th man on the line for them, like Mumford has, in order to ensure whoever is the quarterback is getting maximum protection, whether it be on the line side or the play side.
Yeah, and when the Raiders' offensive line was good, and I mean really good, back in 16, 17, and 18, they had one of those tight ends, Lee Smith, and he was vital to that. And so we've seen the Raiders do this, never mind other teams across the league, and it works. So if that's the vision, it's good vision.
No, for sure, and they're gonna bring the hammer. and they're gonna run the football a lot. And people and Matt with we buried the lead, or I wouldn't even say buried, but more like saving the best for last, and we'll keep sliding on past that. But Andre James, now the Andre James re-signing was interesting. I've had I singled him out as a gentleman who could be upgraded and moved on from. And then I saw what the Senators were signing for.
Yeah, a lot of money.
And Andre James at eight million per looked pretty damn good to me.
No, for sure. I actually like this re-signing a lot because the market for centers, first of all, the market wasn't even that. I mean, there were some names. I can't say it wasn't that great, but first of all, you're losing the entire right side, right? You're losing your right tackle and right guard, and potentially your center. And the Raiders' offensive line the last 2 years, it really hasn't been horrible. It could have been better, granted, but it hasn't been horrible. So you look at the market; it's not that great. And if you can retain those pieces that weren't horrible, then that's good. I mean, that's good.
And more or less, that's pretty much where they find themselves. I think that we knew that they were grooming Mumford to be the eventual replacement for Illuminor, especially given the fact that they set him up in positions where he could learn and get acclimated while having an additional guy of protection inside of him on the off chance that he did falter. And his rookie year was solid, but when it came time to play tackle, it wasn't where it needed to be. So in the second year, they trotted him back out there as the third tackle, the tight end, and all the other things that they did with him. And I think that now, especially given the Joe Philbin and James Craig, that whatever issues that he has, they feel like they can clean up because he's gotten used to the flow. He's got his body in good condition, and he knows what he's doing and heading into year 3.
No, so, man, Thayer is an interesting case. That's all I'll say. Man, at the end of the day, where they drafted him and what they got from him has been good. It's a good deal there. Mm-hmm.
But alas, here's just Josh. And there's a couple things to touch on with Josh Jacobs. I respect the hell out of the player. I respect everything that he's done, all the energy he spent, everything, being the leader, putting up with bullshit he shouldn't have to put up with. But if you're gonna leave because you took more money to go someplace else, then just leave it at that. They offered you an exorbitant amount of money that you said that you simply weren't going to get where you were at, and you said, "I'm taking the bag." You got to secure the financial freedom for yourself, your kids, all of that. I can't fault you for that. As at the end of the day, as everybody always will tell you, football's a business.
No, for sure.
Yeah, and you went into business for yourself. So I mean, we don't have to dress it up and talk about loyalties and X, Y, Z, and blase. You got a 1-year, $14 million contract.
No, you're absolutely right, man. And to be honest, I didn't even think Josh would get that much for 1 year from another team besides the Raiders if they wanted to bring him back, which I'm not saying he didn't deserve it. I think he deserved every penny, but I didn't think it would happen like that because, I mean, the NFL is a business and sometimes business is dirty. But, I mean, I'm happy for Josh and he got the contract. I've heard that the contract is really 1 year, $14 million with 3 Packers options as it goes down. But either way, I mean, it's still good for him. I'm happy for him. And if it is 1 year, $14 million, that just means it's going to get cheaper because it's an average of $20 million per year. So that just means it's going to get cheaper as the years go on. And Green Bay has more incentive to hang on to him. Plus, Aaron Jones is gone now. So that's 2 things that equal job security for Josh Jacobs. So I'm happy for him, man.
No, for sure. And should he go out there and continue to produce, he will be handsomely rewarded. His contract pretty much stays level at $12.5 million per year, all the way through in the duration of it after you get out of the first. And so it's if it goes the entire length of the deal, then it's an absolute knockout contract, and he chose to bet on himself, and it'll be what it is. So
yeah, and
go ahead.
If Jordan Love is still slinging that football, it's going to open up a lot, because what happened is the year 2022, when McDaniels came and Josh Jacobs first team All-Pro and all this, Derek Carr led the league in 20-plus yard attempts downfield. So that opened up a lot for Jacobs, because, defenses have to respect it, whether or not it's being completed or not. If it's attempted, you have to respect it, and especially at such a high clip. Jordan Love keeps doing that. I mean, it's going to happen the same way. Josh Jacobs defense is going to have to respect Jordan Love's deep ball. Not even the accuracy behind it, which it is accurate, Jordan Love's deep ball, but just the fact that he's attempting it so often. If he continues to do so, which I don't know why he wouldn't, then Josh Jacobs capitalizes on that.
Jordan Love. It's funny that you bring his name up. I remember when me and Jones were talking about drafting him as a rookie, but we couldn't draft him because we had our quarterback already. Turns out that Jordan Love is a better quarterback than the quarterback that we had, and he did it in 3 short years. Walked it to win a playoff game in Dallas.
Jordan Love looks like a stud. He looks like a stud. It's actually incredible that Green Bay might have done it 3 times in a row. Well, twice in a row. 3 quarterbacks in a row, but the same strategy twice in a row, and it could have worked.
No, for sure. So that somebody got some news here. Oh man, who cares about Kevin Givens?
Kevin who?
Kevin Givens re-signed with the Niners. Said defensive tackle re-signing. I was like, oh, they managed to make it work with Armstead at a different deal because Devo got upset. But no, it was Kevin Givens. And they traded for Malik Collins from Houston.
7th round pick, all it took.
Well, I was going to say they needed to. Don't they need to offload some salary, especially since they gave Danielle Hunter all that money?
Yeah, probably. They probably should.
Houston was the last 2 years. Houston not been playing at all.
Yeah, what they've done, Danico and company over there, man, they've, like you said, they're not playing at all. I mean, Danico's first year, he said, screw this, man. We're taking our franchise quarterback, and we're taking who we think is the best defensive player in the draft, 2 and 3. We don't give a fuck. So they're not playing any games in Houston.
No, none at all. And then they have another draft pick. No, that was at 12.
Yeah, from a Deshaun trade.
Yeah. I was just like, wow. I said, watch out. Watch out, they're coming. They are not playing, and they rolled into 2024 equally without losing a beat.
Yeah, man. And Will Anderson last year was like almost everything he was advertised to be, really. He was advertised to be a lot. Now, Danielle Hunter, who's been pretty consistent when healthy, that's his biggest problem, was the when healthy. But when on the field, he's pretty damn consistent. You got those two together, it's tough.
Now, the one thing I'd have to go back to look to see, I know they brought in a defensive tackle. I can't remember who it was right now off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that too.
Because they didn't just give up Malik Collins for no reason. But and DJ Reader was gone too.
Danico Autry. That's who.
I don't think. Well, I do. Danico Autry is a beast. I don't think that's exactly who it was either.
Yeah. It was Danico Autry, because
he has Danico.
$11 million a year, I believe he got from Houston, which really the point that I was making earlier. We would have never Danico Autry, who's been consistent and good, but never really exactly a game changer, would get $11 million a year, and that might be for Danico. That really might be a bargain to bring him in for $11 million a year. Prices are just getting insane.
No, that's crazy. It really is. It's just It's been wild. It's been wild. Looking at these, I know what it was. They got Joe Mixon. They traded for Joe Mixon. That's
Oh,
the move.
yeah.
That's the move. Woo! People don't understand. It was like Joe Mixon with C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell, Nico Collins. They need a tight end. But didn't they?
They gave Schultz a big extension.
They gave Schultz a big extension, so they got their tight end.
Yeah, and they pretty good offensive line. They got top 3 tackle in the game.
Is that where Tunsil's up to now?
Oh yeah. Oh, Tunsil is amazing. I mean, I think his game is flawless. I'm not gonna lie to you. He might be my tackle 1 in the entire NFL, including Trent Williams. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's close.
Good for him. I hope he makes it work in Houston and him and C.J. Stroud ball out unless they're playing the Raiders.
Yeah, amen to that.
But yeah,
playoff.
D'Amico ain't playing around either, and I think that D'Amico and AP will hopefully be, and maybe to a lesser extent, because that would probably be Dundee, but finally be the coaches that knock the stigma off of the black coaches can't coach. We need to only interview them as the minority hire rule. Because Ryan's getting done out there on the field. I was like, Houston didn't look like they had a rookie head coach at all. And what they were able to accomplish with what they had to work with in year 1 was incredible.
Man, too many people spamming my phone. I had to put my phone on Do Not Disturb real quick. But yeah, no, for sure. It's like you said, man, you would never guess he's a rookie head coach. He's just so composed, and in the locker room is really just they believe in him 100%, and he's really enforcing his will. It's been quieter because guys like Dan Campbell, it's loud, and AP even is loud, and everybody sees it. But with D'Amico Ryan, it's a lot more quiet, but it's still the same. I mean, everybody in Houston in that locker room respects the hell out of him.
Another former player played at a high level. Was on the Jets when the Jets were good. Him and Scott playing under brain farting. Rex.
Yeah, good old Rex. Rex.
But yeah, so all of the off season so far has been steaming in the right direction for the Raiders. The moves they've made have all made sense. They all coincide with the plan. The plan has backups, and the backups have backups. In case shit happens, because shit always does. We actually didn't even talk about Gardner. Minshew mania that is now upon us. The last quarterback to win in Oakland.
That's crazy, actually. I didn't even consider that. And of course, they played last year, and another W.
Beat them again. Said, why? Because you can't kill the stash. You give him an inch, he's just like crabs. You give him an inch and he'll take over.
That's crazy. I didn't remember that was the last one in Oakland, because I remember at the 2016 they were not 2016. When was the last year? 2018 in Oakland, or 19? 19, I think. I think it was 19. And yeah, I remember there was a lot of momentum, and it looked like they were going to make a playoff run, or they were potentially on the verge of making a playoff run, and they played the Jags. I remember exactly how that game ended too, but yeah, that's crazy. There's a lot of history there, and of course, this last year, it looked like they were starting to pick up things again, and then Indy was like, nah.
Yeah, that was a world-class screw job, how that ended. Instead, how do you slide inbounds, give yourself up at the beginning of the slide, and you credited for going out of bounds positively to stop the clock to give the Jags the ball back instead of running it out.
My God, I even remember the Hail Mary after that play. It was a pass directly to Keelan Doss in the end zone, and it bounced off his face mask. And it didn't hit his hand. It bounced off of his face mask in the end zone, and it was incomplete, game over. That was tough. That was a tough sequence to watch.
Yeah. And they blew Derek Carr out of it.
But yeah, last year's game might have stung even more. I don't know if it stung me even more, but it stung. It definitely.
Yeah, it did. It most certainly did, because the refs gave the Colts an extra opportunity to to win the game when they didn't earn it.
Yeah, with the Jets.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was one of the greatest jumps I've seen in a while. So that is a man who timed the center somewhere during the week, saw something he could use and took it to heart, because it was crazy.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. But no, that's a good point you made. I mean, Gardner Minshew really has a history of owning the Raiders, and not just owning the Raiders, but at like crucial times where the Raiders need wins.
Yeah, through unconventional means, pass rush, everything, things not going his way, somehow finding a way to get it done. And most importantly, he can keep the play alive, which is the one thing that Devontae has been screaming for.
No, for sure. I mean, the last time we saw a quarterback that could do that was probably Jarrett Stidham in weeks 16, 17, 18, 2 years ago, of course. And the offense looked great during that stretch. So Devontae looked great during that stretch. Yeah.
So there's certainly a lot of things that are trending in the right direction, be upbeat about, happy about, and it's just day one of the NFL season free agency. Tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, the Raiders are supposed to be formally introducing their signees. So I guess that we no longer are required to announce signings on the start of the league year. We can just call it a tampering time and say that that's what it is.
Yeah, for sure. And real quick, to go back to Gardner Minshew, I know there's a lot of Raider fans that are just absolutely destroyed by this because Gardner Minshew QB1, which might necessarily not be true anyway. But the long story short with Gardner Minshew is they gave him $12.5 million a year for 2 years, which seems like a lot, but it's just not. It's just not. Even for a QB2, it would be a lot of money for a QB2, but it would not even be outrageous, unthinkable money for a QB2. But bottom line with Gardner Minshew is he's out of the top 20 right now in annual payment. And guys like Trevor Lawrence, Tua, a whole bunch of guys under him still on rookie contracts who are going to greatly surpass him when they're about to be paid. And Gardner Minshew is not going to be the uncontested QB1 for the Raiders. This is 100% a bridge quarterback contract, best case scenario bridge quarterback contract.
And then once again, your insurance policy. We love Aiden O'Connell. Said Aiden O'Connell came in and did great things for the team. Managed to keep the ball moving without turning it over, which is huge. Sometimes the best offense you can have is not shooting yourself in the foot, and he was able to do. And he was able to do that. Gardner Minshew has won in this league before, many times over again. He was a game out of the playoffs with the Colts, and wasn't even a starter.
What did Colts finish, 9-8?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. No, Minshew for sure.
He's not here, so whatever. He could tell us all about Gardner Minshew and what he did with the Colts, Hunter. But yeah. So, and I remember covering Minshew back when I was covering Cal, and he in the air raid system with Mike Leach, he was tearing shit up. He was out. I really was like, why isn't more people talking about this kid? This kid is out here setting ungodly Jared Goff at Cal numbers, but nobody's ever heard of him. And that's probably because of the fact that you look at his profile pic and you swear up and down you're looking at Uncle Rico in his heyday.
No, for sure. He definitely has a unique look.
It's made generous. It works for him. That's all that matters. He does him, and he keeps rolling like a crazy man. And you need a couple of those on your team.
He's definitely a leader too, man. I mean, like you said, he's won important games. He's won big games. But yeah, bottom line is he's not going to be the uncontested QB1 from here on out.
No, and hopefully we'll get to a point where he's making sure that the rookie is doing what he needs to do and showing him how it's done so that he can do it.
Yeah, for sure. It's the dream right there.
Because the long and the short is, you look at the way that free agency's gone thus far, and you see who's left and available, and the Raiders is drafting a quarterback. And we just got through watching Bo Nix's pro day, and I can tell you that that's who they shouldn't be drafting. And it's not necessary. There are legitimate footwork issues. It's not a question of, do I like what he's done? His footwork is terrible. Said the throws that he makes sail and hang. And while Oregon had a net on top of their practice field for a pro day, I have no idea why they were doing that at all. And it was there. Some of the deeper throws were affected by it. Some, but there's some timing and accuracy issues and arm strength that is going to rear their head and follow him wherever it is that he goes.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest about the pro day. I don't know how much that really affects guys who are well coveted anyway. Quarterbacks like Bo Nix, guys who have the spotlight in the media and teams are already scouting and all this. I would think, if anything, the guys that jump out are the more underrated guys that you're deeper in the draft on your board, and you're like, oh God, I got to shoot this guy out. But a guy like Bo Nix, no. So, you and I have been pretty consistent on Bo Nix all year with what we think of him, and it's not been good. And this, unsurprisingly, didn't change anything. It was very consistent with what we thought.
Actually, I'll do you one better. It's bad when we're agreeing with Mel Kiper Jr. Mel Kiper Jr. had Bo Nix as the 6th-ranked QB. And I was like, you know what? Mel Kiper Jr. finally got it right.
Not sure if he did. It might even be lower than 6.
6 is about right. That puts him neck and neck with Travis.
Yeah, I prefer Travis. Travis.
Yeah, Caleb, Drake, Jaden, JJ, Penix, Travis, said Nix. 6 or 7.
Yeah. Yeah. And if a few more guys chose not to go back to school, like Quinn, maybe we could be looking lower.
Yeah. Take Quinn over. But alas, yes, said, with all that being said, prepare yourselves. It's probably going to be the guy to end up drafting.
No, for sure. And I want your opinion on something, Phil. This is get a little bit away from the Raiders stuff, just league in general.
Mm-hmm.
Who has caught your eye, teams in the free agency period, that you've just been like, they're having a good free agency period?
Philadelphia, Houston.
Yep.
The Browns have done some interesting retooling. I'm quite anxious to see how they get put together. Obviously, the Commanders have been the most active because they've had the most to do.
Yep.
A couple teams have caught my eye in more of peculiar fashion. And actually, I forgot that Tennessee's been Rand Carthian is over there killing it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
He's killing it. I mean, signing Calvin Ridley for what he paid and already having DeAndre Hopkins over there, who's still functioning well and producing. They are giving Mayo Man every opportunity to succeed that he can ask. Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for?
Yeah, man. Traylon.
What more could you ask for? Either one of them two receivers you got can be some guys that spin around. He's down there somewhere. He'll come down with it.
Yeah, not just that, but they drafted Peter Skoronski in the first round last year, guard. I think he's playing guard. He is playing guard in the NFL. He was a tackle in college, but guard in the NFL. And they're probably going to go tackle in this year's draft, I would imagine, and get even more help for. You got to imagine it's going to be Will Levis. And, I mean, what more could you ask for, really?
It'd be hard pressed now that my teams that have just been leaving me absolutely head scratching. Number one, I don't know what the hell the New York Giants are doing. Adding Brian Burns and giving him all that money. Hey, that's the guy you wanted, that's the guy you wanted. Said no problem there. I'm trying to figure out at what point do they address the glaring issues that they have on offense with adding a wide receiver, because they just downgraded their running back position group from Saquon Barkley to Devin Singletary. Darren Waller is not for sure if he's even playing this year, excuse me. Said he's contemplating retirement right now. They've convinced themselves that Daniel Jones is the problem. They've added a couple pieces on the offensive line, so that they attempted to address that. So I can no longer point the finger at that and say what they're not doing anything there. But was Saquon to Singletary really worth the money that you saved?
No, you didn't even save it because you spent it on Brian Burns, and I mean, your run defense is terrible to begin with, and Brian Burns is not good at all against the run, and you didn't help yourself there. Didn't
get any better.
I don't know, man. I don't know, but actually, while on the subject of Brian Burns, one of the teams that I think has done an incredible job is the Panthers, and I know they fumbled on the Brian Burns stuff solely because last year they could have got 2 firsts from the Rams, which people say they were a few years out. I guess it would have been next year's pick in the year after that, which does make sense because they traded all their first, the Rams. But even still, I mean, if you're rebuilding, that means you're probably you expect to be, below contention for a few years. And the Rams are rebuilding themselves. So I don't know. I think that would have been a really good deal. But anyway, they did fumble on the Burns stuff, but they brought in a Sean Robinson, who actually had the 4th most solo tackles at defensive tackle across the league, and number 1 was Derek Brown, the Panthers' other defensive tackles, so they're their defensive tackles now. It's pretty fucking good. Frankie Lou, they lost, but they signed Josie Jewell from the Broncos. Pretty solid. It's a bit of a downgrade, but solid. But they probably did get worse on defense. They probably did. But on offense, they did about everything they could for Bryce Young. I love it. They overpaid for guards, but I'm a Hornets fan, so I see this all the time with the Hornets in Charlotte. Nobody wants to come to North Carolina. And, add that to the fact that the teams are bad because the Hornets and Panthers are terrible. You really do have to overpay for talent. So they got 2 guards who are pretty darn good. Actually, so Robert Hunt, one of the guards that they gave the $100 million contract to, he allowed 5 pressures last year in about 500 total snaps, not just pass blocking, just both combined. The Panthers had 5 guards on the roster, 5 last year, with more than 5 pressures allowed. That's insane. And they all played less total snaps than Robert Hunt, too. So they upgraded massively there. Mm-hmm. And you get Deontay Johnson, who's not a guy that you're going to throw 10-plus passes to a game, but he's a playmaker who spreads the offense, and they needed that desperately because they didn't have that at all anywhere. So I really like what the Panthers have done, specifically for Bryce Young, their 1st overall pick last year, who they need to invest in, and they are.
Yes. And they're making sizable strides in the right direction. I know that I had jokingly said, and half joking because I was also very serious, that he should force his way out of Carolina, because with the way they were headed, it was going to be a sinking ship. It was already a sinking ship, but it was going straight to the bottom of the fucking Atlantic with the Titanic just firing the coach, no wide receivers, no running backs, no line. It was a mess. No first round draft picks, but they look to be riding the ship and getting it in a direction that they can use and getting Bryce back on track. And I'm really happy about that because it would have been a true disservice to Bryce to draft him number 1 overall and then just feed him to the wolves.
Yeah, no, for sure. In that regard, it wouldn't have even made sense to. The way the Panthers started free agency too, because they also lost their other edge rusher opposite of Brian Burns, who isn't fantastic, but it's another starter that they lost. They lost Frankie Louvu, traded Brian Burns. It looked like they were just giving up and they were just rebuilding on their already rebuild that they invested the first overall pick in, and it was like, what the hell is happening? But now things are definitely starting to come together.
No, for sure. So definitely moved the needle in that way. So kudos to them. I like the moves that fit Saquon to the Eagles. I thought that DeAndre Swift was a nice little piece for him. Saquon's going to be even better.
Oh yeah,
way better. They're not now. I'm curious to see how they're going to address the center position because they're not going to replace Jason Kelce. You're not going to get the same player there. So now we're moving on to see how compromised is it going to be.
For sure. I like what Philly's done a lot. They got Bryce Huff. Pretty sure they added a defensive tackle too. I can't remember who. Did they add a linebacker? They might have added a linebacker, and they added Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back too,
which was big. They missed him. They missed his presence, his attitude, his all of that.
They missed him big.
Yeah. Didn't Fletcher Cox retire?
He did. Fletcher Cox was not looking good anyway. I mean, they might be happy he retired, but right. Yeah, he did retire. But the thing also with Fletcher Cox is, while I say that about on the field, the locker room stuff and the leadership he brought to the team is invaluable.
No, for sure. Right, just checking the tweet, see if anything good had popped up. Sheldon Rankins going to the Bengals. So, but yeah, so that's where we are. I thought that, again, like I said, we thought that there'd be a little bit more meat on the bone, but also another name to keep an eye on moving forward will be Xavier Howard. It was rumored that the Dolphins were going to release him, but until he was formally released, nobody could approach him. Now that he's a free agent, he has history with Patrick Graham and Gerald Alexander, and so it's a fit. It's a natural fit. He would be perfect with the increased pass rush and the range that he operates, which is within about 15, 20 yards of the line of scrimmage. Said he will be absolutely lights out perfect defensively, and that will make this defense that much better.
Yeah, well, cornerback is now with defensive tackle set. I would have said this regardless, even if we didn't sign even if the Raiders didn't sign Christian Wilkins. But I mean, cornerback is easily the biggest need on defense. I mean, it's really not even close to being close. And if you can get someone, even if it is Xavier Howard, there's actually a lot of premium cornerbacks. Not too premium, like I'm not talking big name. Premium game, okay? Premium game, not premium name is what I'm trying to say. Cornerbacks left on the market. And I mean, even if we bring back Rocky Sin, even if the Raiders bring back Rocky Sin, who's very productive with the Raiders, and he was good in his, I believe he was, so he did come in for Marlon Humphrey for a bit, but then he was ultimately the first rotational cornerback in, and even in his limited time in Baltimore, he was very good. So if you can bring him back, that's a win. We're really just missing one guy opposite of Jack Jones, because Nate Hobbs is going to be your slot guy. Of course, if Tyler Hall comes back, that's amazing. Nothing wrong with that at all. But you still need that outside guy opposite of Jack Jones.
No, for sure, and we would like him to be a little bit tall, a little bit larger than 5'9", 8.
Oh man, yeah. No,
that 5'8", 195 pounds of pure dynamite played like it too. So I'm not gonna disrespect that man, but I was really shocked that the Raiders chose not to match that offer.
Oh no, for sure. Especially when you look at how much of a need it is, and Meek has only gotten better year after year. I mean, every year I've doubted this guy, and I've thought he's not going to get better. He's not going to get better, and he just has. So
yeah,
a praise to say to him. But yeah, I'm surprised too.
And I'll admit it. Like you said, I just thought it was going to be the end. He just got better and better and better, and I think that was insulting to him. But it's crazy that he only got what he got. I thought that he would have got way more.
Yeah, no, and I think Meek is the perfect Dan too, because he's going to enforce his will, and he's just high energy and he's high passion. So I love that signing for Detroit. It makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I really am shocked that they didn't at least try. Well, maybe they did at least try. We don't know, but they clearly didn't try too hard.
Yeah. I don't even really think that was trying. I was like, I've been called a cheap bastard myself, but even I would have given more money than that.
Oh, for sure. That's a bargain, man. Especially, so if you're the Raiders, Amik Robertson would be he'd be the second starter opposite of Jack Jones, the second cornerback outside. And that's, what did I say earlier? If you get a starting player who's good for $10 million a year, I mean, it's probably not going to happen. And if they have a consistent track record, it's definitely not going to happen. But I mean, what did Amik get paid? Like $3.5 million a year, I think. Was it 2 years, $7.5 million contract total?
Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's your starter. Like, that would be the money you're like, that's every
backup. Yeah, you didn't sign this early in free agency to be a backup.
Exactly. And Amik is probably going to be a starter in Detroit too, because Detroit's secondary their cornerbacks specifically are tough. So he's probably going to be a starter there.
Yeah, and without Gardner Johnson back there, they just got a little bit worse. They'll have Brian Branch on year 2.
Yep.
Yeah,
they need help.
There's a hole there. There's certainly a hole there. But yeah, well, this opening of the league year. We've gone almost an hour, and that's all I got. You got anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I'll add that I would like to see something else on the offensive line be done. But my qualm with that is, I go back to what I said earlier, that the market, especially now, because we're in really the leftovers, it's just not tough. So I don't even know what you could really do. But it feels like the Raiders don't even have a backup plan in place right now for guard specifically. There's just not even a backup plan, and it needs to be something, man. Because I don't know. I would just like to see something done.
And there will be. But it's you can't sign everybody day one of free agency. Then what are you gonna do for the rest of the offseason? Act like you got it all figured out week 1, day 1.
That's fair.
Especially given the fact, as we've said, that everybody who signed today is signing for exorbitant amounts. Sometimes the best moves that you can make are the cap clearing moves that set you up for later on, where everybody else has already blown their wad early on the high price free agents, and now you're getting the glue guys for much cheaper, much more reasonable, team friendly deals.
Yeah. No, you make a good point for sure. It's just, it sucks because I'd say cornerback's a bigger need just because there's literally nobody right now. I guess Faison's on year 2 of his contract because he had a 2-year contract. So there is somebody. But I would still say it's a bigger need than offensive line. But, I mean, quarterback aside, because quarterback is obviously head and shoulders the biggest need. But, quarterback aside, offensive line and cornerback are neck and neck. And shit. I mean, with what I just said about cornerback, I would kind of like to see something done with cornerback too. I don't know. It will happen.
So there's a couple ways to look at that. I would like to see another veteran brought in who's ready to go now, but I also want to see Ja'Cory Bennett develop.
Oh, for sure.
We both had very high hopes for Ja'Cory Bennett, and I saw some things that could be worked with and some things that need to be worked on. And I hope that they continue to develop him and bring him along, because that 4.3 flat will be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, and he definitely has ball skills too. He's not just all speed, for sure. Big on Ja'Cory Bennett's potential, no doubt about that.
Need to be a little bit more make some smarter business decisions when it comes to his tackling, so that he can ensure he stays with us for the entire season, and realize that these boys are a little bigger than college, and so go ahead and feel free to hit them knees, take them down that way instead of trying to square up with NFL running backs.
For sure,
might help just a smidge. But
yeah, man.
That's what we got. That's Alex. I'm Phil. This is the AP cast. And we out.
Glad we went out with a bang with you. Raider Nation, stand up. We'll see you in 2024.